And hello and welcome to this week's episode of Media Musings. I see we have DOG in the chat and Robert X. And of course, hello to anyone who is lurking or may be watching in the future. Just need to check something real quick, because I should have done this while I was waiting, but I was scrolling Twitter instead.
But
okay, yeah, still don't need to update the crawler. So this episode, like previous ones, have been brought to you by my wonderful patrons, Santi the Sane and PJ Smith. Now, a couple weeks ago during the Die Hard stream, I said that John Wick is a masterpiece of action cinema. And I'm here to defend that statement.
Yeah. Before you do, can I make a comment that you'd missed on Die Hard? Everyone insists Die Hard's a Christmas movie, but it's not. Well, it kind of is. It's the Harry Potter Christmas special. You spent 2 hours running around a tower from Alan Rickman. It's the Harry Potter Christmas special.
Is that a way of getting this in early?
It's just because I missed the Die Hard special. So
it's got to work in somehow.
Technically, it doesn't count because we haven't tied it into the actual topic.
Well, it ties into last week's topic.
Yeah, it's
actually the week before last, because last week was Unbreakable.
Fair. But yeah, because I wasn't on that one, I had to make my point. Yeah. But yeah, let's John Wick.
Yeah, okay. So John Wick is a masterpiece of action cinema, not just because the action sequences are so good, but because you can keep going back to John the movie John Wick, and keep watching it and keep digging into it, and you find more and more stuff, more and more angles to approach the movie from, which in my opinion qualifies it as a masterpiece.
On the point about the action setups, yes, they are fantastic. That's largely because several of them are based off Bruce Lee.
It definitely has a lot of different elements to this that you could pick up on. I used to sort of make the comment a few years ago, John Wick is the best film that Quentin Tarantino never made. Because some of the violence does kind of get into the Tarantino territory a little bit. I don't think it goes quite as over the top as Tarantino, but it's also
it does, and it does it with a fucking pencil.
It's it's with a but it's also got the sort of neo-noir sort of feel to John Wick as well. Which is probably not something you'd associate with Tarantino so much, but...
Sorry, don't mind me just filling aspects.
I will say, at least the first movie isn't as gory as the Tarantino flick is.
No, I think that's because they spent a lot of time world building, though, didn't they?
Yeah.
Which they kind of had to.
And another... brain stopped doing the thing.
Give it a moment, let it reboot. Brain.exe is not responding, please wait.
So
go on, Rain.
And it can be taken like just as easily like as a straight action film, but it can also be taken as a deconstructionist satire of the action genre.
I prefer to take it as the latter.
Yeah.
Just because it makes it more fun.
Yeah. You know, because okay, so one, you know, here's your spoiler warning for you know, for a movie that's been weighing heavy, you know, that's been everywhere in the public zeitgeist for nearly a decade, or not nearly a decade, for like 5 years.
Yeah. I will say, did anyone else, when I first saw John Wick, particularly the first one, I got such comic book vibes from it.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of it does pay a lot of homage in a way to a lot of different sort of types of cinema, because you mentioned the Bruce Lee thing, so there's
Yeah.
it's probably even some homage to like spaghetti westerns in this a bit as well.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, there was something about it. I think a lot of it was the cinematography, but some of the, especially the way it was shot, very much reminded me of sort of superhero movies and comic book movies.
Okay, yeah, okay. I was gonna save this for later, but but there's a very good reason why. And it's not that it harkens to comic, you know, it's not that it harkens to comic book movies, but it uses a similar visual trick that actual comic books use. But also
it is something you
know, for those who don't like animal, you know, who don't like animal cruelty, we're not going to delve into it in detail, but the dog dies.
Yeah, I will just
the dog
say
dies.
this. If there's one lesson to take away from John Wick, it is don't be fucking cruel to animals. Because this might fucking happen to you.
Yeah.
You know, it's just if there's anything to take away from this, cruelty to animals has its consequences. Me and Noodle actually said, 2 things you don't do: you don't fuck with a man's car, and you don't fuck with a man's dog.
Yeah, but okay. So, but before we get into those angles, so Noodle mentioned that it reminded her of a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very important reason why. Not necessarily. It's not because of how the fights are staged, but it does have to do with how the fights are shot.
Yeah, a lot of the camera angles are very similar, and the way they cut backwards and forwards, and the imagery you get from them.
Yeah, but see, and it had to be pointed out. You know, it had to be pointed out to me for me to see it. But John Wick and what comic book, in comic books, or rather Western superhero comic books, are both color coded.
Yeah.
Because John Wick, if you pay attention to the color of the lighting and the color of the objects in the scenes, John Wick's color is blue. If a fight is going well for him, and thus going badly for the people he's up against,
it's blue.
Yeah, the lighting will be blue, or there will be blue objects in the scene.
Yeah, famously the pool party.
Yeah. The club scene is the most obvious use of this technique, but it's all throughout the movie. Red is the color of the gangsters. You know, if things start going badly for John Wick, there will be red objects in the scene, or in the case of the club sequence, there will be, red lights. And then, of course, there is a third color, which is largely neutral in this affair. And that is yellow.
Which you see generally around any time where they're around the Continental.
Yeah, I would have said it's more gold than yellow, but definitely there's a lot of it in and around the Continental.
Yeah.
I definitely, we could get into this maybe a bit later, but around the Continental, I think, is a huge part of the world building kind of experience of what these movies are. And I would definitely say my first impression when I first watched this is this, this could be like a great graphic novel. That was my first impression of this. It feels like, it very much feels like this is something that you could, this could have been a great graphic novel series. And
he does. He watches a bit like a sort of an everyman superhero, or he's got a bit of a Constantine vibe going on, but without the supernatural elements.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and they did have Keanu Reeves play Constantine once, didn't they? So,
but and of course, the Continental is the neutral ground. So, of course, that's why it gets its own color.
It's I mean, the Continental is basically Switzerland in this. It's that, and that is, I mean, I think that's a big, as I said, that's very much a big part of, certainly in the first one, very big part of the world building kind of experience of the world that we're in here. I think has to do with the Continental, that when you realize it's something a little bit more than just perhaps a straight out action revenge movie kind of thing, which, I mean, obviously it is an action revenge movie. Of course it is. Well, but you can see that they are building a world here, and that this.
Well, it's simultaneously both an action revenge movie and a satire of action revenge movies.
Yeah, it's very much in the same vein that The Princess Bride is both a fairy tale and a satire of fairy tales.
Yeah. But anyways, the movie begins. John Wick's, happy with his wife who is dying of some illness.
I think they specified it was cancer, didn't they?
I believe it was.
It's most likely cancer, because it's always cancer.
It's she's terminally ill anyway. That's
I mean, cancer is the 20th/21st century tuberculosis.
Yeah, everyone's got it. Everyone you're supposed to sympathize with and like gets it.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to work that in there.
There's certain things that have to come into, like, these banners have to appear on screen at least once.
Yeah. But, and of course, we learned that, John Wick had left behind a shady past to live with his wife, to be with his wife, and she dies. And the last thing she does is she orders a puppy for him so he has a companion to help him through his grieving process.
Yeah. Which, is sweet, but the fact that she got him like a little pit bull or a staffy, it looks like a staffy to me.
No,
the puppy she gives him is a beagle.
It's a beagle.
Not the beagle, the other dog. So what was where did the staffy come from?
Well, we can get to that.
We can get to that because that comes in at the end.
Oh, yeah. Now I remember. Sorry.
Yeah.
Confused. Yeah, the beagle.
Yes.
Beagle.
And and we also learn that John has an old classic Mustang that he keeps in tip-top condition, and when he needs to vent off some steam, he goes, out to the airfield and does like stunt driving. Or what looks like stunt driving. What?
I wouldn't call that stunt driving. I'd just call it screwing around. But yeah. There are far worse hobbies to have.
Yeah. And then I forget the character's name and I forget the actor's name, but we're just gonna call him Theon Greyjoy.
Alfie Allen.
Yeah, because I have a feeling that actor had been kind of typecast.
Yeah, as a little asshole.
Yeah.
He's I think it's Yusuf Tarasov. I think it's the name. I can't pronounce it. Well, so Alfie Allen's the actor. It's he's the son of comedian Keith Allen and the singer Lily, the sister of his sister's Lily Allen, the singer.
Yeah. I mean, he is a very good actor, and he can make me hate any character that he plays. But the poor bloke must get so much,
Yeah.
Well, come on, his own sister wrote a song about him, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
But she actually calls him a twat in the middle of it. So, so you got to feel a bit sorry for Alfie.
Yeah, you got to feel it a little bit.
But yeah, so Theon Greyjoy likes John Wick's car and tries to buy it, and John Wick won't sell it because he likes his car. This is an action movie. The man likes his car.
It is nice and traditional that guys in action movies have nice cars.
Yeah.
Like it's always classic American muscle. It's always something that can't get round a corner at any kind of speed.
Yeah.
And it's always something that they do incredibly improbable stunts in.
We don't need cars that'll go around corners at speed. Because we have no corners in the USA.
Yes, I agree. It's true.
And of course, Theon mouths off about John Wick, to his cronies in Russian, and John, if I remember right, John actually replies in Russian before leaving.
Yeah. Of course, because every action hero since at least the 1950s has had to speak Russian.
Yeah. And then they break into his house and steal his car and kill his dog on screen.
Yeah. Assholes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So off they go.
Yeah.
They go off with the car. And that initial fight scene was very interesting because there's a lot of, I will say, a warning to anyone who's got light-sensitive epilepsy if you're going to watch these movies and you haven't already. Yeah. There's a lot of flashing lights. I think for me, the moment I realised this movie was something different had to be when the cleanup crew arrived.
Yeah.
Because it just went from, oh, hell, to, this is actually funny.
Yeah.
And the movie does give you emotional a little bit.
Am I coming across okay? Because I appear to be having some internet problems at the moment. So.
You're coming.
I am at the moment. Okay, at the moment, I'm just a little wary of that it might happen again. So,
Yeah, and of course the friendly neighborhood police officer checks in. You working, John?
Eh.
Which
So it seems like the world and his wife knows who John Wick is, and the only person who doesn't is John Wick's wife.
I was gonna say, I don't know what you were saying whilst I was whilst I was out the room, but I mean, in the beginning of the film, we're not really sort of told exactly what he is at the beginning.
Yeah,
we know there's a past there.
Yeah, we know there's a dark past, and we see little hints of it. Like, he likes driving his car really fast and making sure his, it's in tip-top shape.
Yeah. Guy keeps guns and shit under his basement.
Well, I'm getting to that scene. We know he speaks Russian.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, like I said, obviously you said the one person that knows his wife didn't, but clearly, obviously, Alfie Allen's character didn't know who he was, who he was dealing with. That is very obvious.
I think, I don't know about you, but in the beginning, I got the impression I was supposed to assume it was some sort of ex-CIA post-Cold War retiree. And then, obviously, that got smashed very quickly, but I feel like that's the impression you were supposed to get. Like, you were supposed to assume he was an American who probably worked against the Russians in the Cold War. In some capacity, and then it obviously came and turned that on its head very quickly.
Yeah, you know he's got a past. We just don't know. It only gets a certain way into the film when you start realizing who he actually is.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think that,
and so we come to a very good thematic, very well shot, very well staged scene where John gets down to business and gives the poor puppy a burial. So he buries his retired life, and then he goes into his garage as Theon's dad's. As we cut back and forth between Theon's dad lecturing Theon about who John Wick is. And John Wick takes a sledgehammer and breaks into the concrete floor of his garage and unburies his old life.
I probably could have butchered. You say Theon's dad. I'm going to probably butcher his name. He's the Swedish actor, the late Michael Lundqvist. He's probably well known. If you ever saw the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the one that was done in the Swedish film, he played Mikael Blomkvist in that series.
Yeah, well, he's also appeared in Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol and in The Colony.
But he sadly passed away a couple of years ago as well. So
he's one of those actors you know his face when you've seen him. Like, even if you've never actually seen him in a film, his face is just really familiar.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, I don't think it's your internet. I think it's Noodles.
No, my internet seems to be fine.
No, it was mine for a minute because mine's having jumping in and out. I was dreading this happening on the Asterisk stream because I know Noodle was having some problems as well. Anyway,
but we learn that not only was John Wick a contract killer for the Russian mob, but he was the contract killer.
He was Baba Yaga.
I can't quite remember the way it was said, but it's like I think there was the like you trying to tell me he's the boogeyman. No,
he's
the
not
one
the
you said.
boogeyman. He's the one you said to kill the fucking boogeyman.
Yeah.
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 Which is one of my favourite lines in that film.
Yeah, and then you get the very famous Johnny's a man of focus, commitment, sheer will, something you know very little about. I once saw him kill 3 men in a bar with a pencil. With a fucking pencil.
Yeah. And of course, you know, these lines are, you know, obviously riffing on, you know, revenge action tropes.
Yeah.
But they're delivered so straightforward, which is why this movie works so well as both a straightforward revenge action thriller and a satire of revenge action thrillers.
Yeah, I mean, we've all seen the action movie where someone says, "Oh, I saw the hero kill 10 men with his bare hands," or something along those lines. And we've all seen a Jackie Chan skit where, you know, he knocks out 10 people with a deck of cards and a mop or something.
Yeah.
And it's definitely that's being satirized a little bit.
Yeah. And so, you know, John starts getting back into his old life by first, you know, getting his car back, which they just, you know, which the, you know, first the chop shop that Theon Greyjoy went to, you know, to get it stripped, wouldn't freaking take it because it was John Wick's car.
There's the great bit where the guy who runs the chop shop and Theon's dad are talking, and he says, "You laid hands on my son? Why? Because he stole John Wick's car." Oh.
Yeah. And Santi were mostly talking about the first John Wick, but this may extend out into the others, or we may do a second part to talk about parts 2 and 3.
We'll get to John Wick 3 because I have a lot of commentary on that main fight scene in John Wick 3.
Yeah. But yeah, and you kill, you know, and you stole his fucking car and you killed his fucking dog.
Yeah. Did you put a language warning on this stream?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we are talking about an R-rated movie.
Yeah. And I think that and then obviously John starts hunting, as it were.
Yeah.
I do like that there is one bit that sort of humanizes him a little bit when he's speaking to Francis, the Russian fella.
Yeah.
And they're chatting away and he says, "Oh, you know, you've lost weight, impressive." And then Francis says, "Are you here on business?" And John's reaction is, "Afraid so."
Yeah.
The look on Francis's face just for a moment before John says, "Why don't you take the night off?"
Yeah.
In other words, I'm not interested in killing you. You're doing your job, but why don't you take the night off? Don't get in my way and I won't knock you out of it.
And he takes the night off.
Yeah.
And well, also, you know, his interaction with the police officer. You know.
Yeah, he does have this. He does appear to have a code that he only seems to go after people. He doesn't try and cause too much collateral damage.
You know, because it's like, you know, the policeman, you know, goes up to John's house, sees the body. You working, John?
Yeah. Yeah, no, so it's like he has his targets, but he's not he's not a nut job. He's not actively. He's not the Punisher, for example.
Yeah.
You know, he's not the Avengers destroying half the city to go after one thing.
Yeah.
So he's competent and he's targeted, and he does, you know. And I think that's kind of why I get more of a Constantine vibe from him than I do sort of other heroes, because he's got that very much. I do feel like you could make a superhero series or a comic book series about this guy, and it would fall under the superhero genre. But quite clearly, what I like about him is that he is entirely human. I do like that, because you're seeing someone who is at the extremes of what a human being is physically capable of, but he is still very decidedly human.
Oh, yeah, and you see him get beat to hell.
Yeah.
And he's not a superhero who's going to bounce back, but he's definitely as skilled as several of the more mediocre superheroes, if not more so.
Yeah.
The Punisher is targeted.
The Punisher, I was say on that one. It's just, I mean, I think more if you watch the TV series of the Punisher, which is brutal as hell, he's very targeted but very conscious about not hurting innocent people. I think in the comics, he's kind of he kind of accepts a certain level of collateral damage at times, but I think the Punisher could be a discussion for another day, I think. But there are similarities you could draw with John Wick and the Punisher without a doubt.
And I'd say John Wick is possibly as he is in the movies. So, you know, we're talking after his wife dies.
Yeah.
He's more of an anti-hero.
Yeah, he's definitely more of an anti-hero than a hero. I would say, yes, Santi, you've got a point. At some point, he's clearly just being a gun for hire. He's a mercenary for the highest bidder. But I think the death of his wife alters his priorities and alters his principles.
Well, his time with his wife definitely changed him.
The thing is, as well, this is not a likable character. I don't think you're supposed to like him as a person. That's why he's been given such a tragic backstory of they took his wife, his dog, and his car.
Yeah.
Like, that's the holy trinity of making an audience like someone. Give them a dog, give them a nice car.
I mean, it's quite often like a bit of a trope with an action hero, though, that they might have a tragic and dark past, and then for like a personal reason, they are brought back into their former life, kind of against their will. Or they're trying to get out of that life, but are continually brought back in.
The thing is with John Wick, he didn't need a lot of pushing.
Yeah,
he wasn't targeted for anything other than the fact that he had a nice car. It wasn't like the old crowd are coming out the woodwork for him.
Yeah. Well, that's because the old crowd don't want him back in that life.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't want because they
died. He's an emotional wreck, and then his dog is killed, and that's what pushes him over the edge. But he could have very easily said no and just reported it to the police and carried on. But it's John Wick, the character, who couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And that's nothing to do. That is, you push a person so far and there's only so much a person can take. His wife's death clearly pushed him close to the edge, losing the dog. And it would have been, trust me, as someone who's known people who owned animals, the animal almost becomes an extension of them once they're dead. And the thought of losing the animal, it's heartbreaking. I've seen it happen when my grandmother owned a staffy, and when that staffy died, watching my dad, it was like watching him lose his mother all over again.
I mean,
you know, you get very attached to animals in a way you just don't with other people, especially when you're grieving.
I mean, the villain I'm with Vigo, because I'm trying to remember what part of the plot we got to now, because he obviously does send people after him.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know if you skipped over, but there was a thing where he worked for this guy, and he got out by performing in impossible tasks.
Task.
Which will play in for this is a plot point for the sequels, perhaps. But maybe if we're not going to get too much into sequels, I don't know. But I think that's worth mentioning that the impossible task is something.
Actually, we're digging quite a lot into John Wick, so I'm thinking we may have to do the sequels as a part 2.
Yeah,
there's a teaser.
And I mean, I want to talk about Vigo because he gives his son the impression that he's basically told him, on your head be it, you made your bed, lie in it.
Yeah.
But he does try. In his defense, he does call John and he does say, listen, can we not deal with this like civilized men?
Yeah.
And John puts the phone down on him.
It's basically, no, there's not going to be any.
Yeah, and Vigo very much gives me Godfather Part 2 vibes. The way, even the way he talks, let's deal with this like civilized men. That is a line straight out of the mouth of Michael Corleone. It just did. You know, even Vito even more so with Vito.
But because initially he does try to send a team of hitmen to his house, but of course you know what happens there. Like you said, he kills all of them and then enlists the cleaning service, shall we say?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I think after that, I suppose the next sort of part of that is where John is going to go and back himself from then, which is where I think is the big part, as I said earlier, of the world building element.
Yeah.
Of John Wick, which is that he checks into the Continental Hotel in which is actually the outside. It's the outside of the Delmonico's building in New York, which I think is used for this.
Yeah.
And
the Continental, at least in the first John Wick, is very much a neutral ground. But when it comes, but there's more to it when it comes to the sequels.
Yeah. I think with the Continental, there is a trope that appears in some stories where you have this space that it appears in sort of gang warfare stories of the pub or the club on the border. And generally the idea is that it's this club and the club owner is so well known and so well respected by both sides that no one would dare cause a fight in that club.
Yeah.
And the Continental's very much got that vibe to it in the first one.
Rule number one, rule number one of the Continental: no business on Continental grounds.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it exactly, and it is very much that thing of you respect the landlord way too much because he will fuck you up. Yeah, it's the consecrated ground from Highlander. It's the same concept, and it's a mark of respect for what that building is and for who owns it. There's nothing particularly special about it. It's who owns it.
Well, it's even it's even you say consecrated ground. When we get into the sequels, we can perhaps talk about that a little bit more. But but you do have. I mean, one of the characters I do enjoy from John Wick is Winston, who is the manager of the Continental in New York. First of all, because I like Ian McShane as an actor.
Ian McShane kills it in his role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I got to. Winston is a lot like Mr. Wednesday out of American Gods in a lot of ways. It's Ian McShane that is like, he's very.
Yeah.
This is Ian McShane at his best, I think, in this. And you do get the feeling that, although this is the content of the, you do get the feeling that he's a little bit partial to John Wick. He likes John. He likes John.
And I think the doorman does as well, doesn't he? Doorman
the concierge likes him, definitely.
Yeah, the concierge.
Who's played by another actor, I think's underrated, called Lance Reddick, who anyone's a fan of the TV show The Wire will be familiar with Lance Reddick.
Well, also, he was also in the TV series Heroes.
Yes.
Again,
there's a couple of actors in The Wire in the first John Wick. There's Lance Reddick and Clark Peters, who's the hitman who's staying in the room next to John. He's also from The Wire.
I mean, what I like about this film as well, it doesn't fall into the trap of making John Wick suddenly this paragon of virtue and light. He's got his target, he's got his goal. That's who he's aiming for. And he really doesn't give a damn about anyone else. And it's far more honest a representation of what human beings are like. Captain America loves peace and justice, and Thor wants to protect his entire planet, and then you've got John Wick, who's just like, no, that fucker killed my dog.
Yeah.
And it's just so much more human, and I love characters like that. They are more anti-hero than hero, but I do love characters like that because they are very relatable in a way that these big superhero names are just not.
Yeah. And of course, John Wick learns that, Theon's hiding out in this club, and we get to the club scene.
The club scene.
Yeah.
The bloodbath.
Yeah. And
which is
well, and as we go through the brilliant, like, long fight scene that is the club scene. So we see the use of color on full display, and also this is a good time to talk about the fights in John Wick.
Yeah.
And there is a reason that the fight scenes look so damn good. It's because the director was a stuntman.
Yeah. So the director knows exactly what he's doing.
Helps.
Yeah.
Definitely helps.
Yeah. In fact, I think he did a thing with I think he did a stint as one of Keanu's stunt doubles in The Matrix. Which is why he was able to get Keanu to sign on for the role of John Wick for so cheap, which basically let the movie get made.
Yeah, because there's no way a small movie like that should have been able to afford Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
And you can see that by the time we get to the sequel, where you start to see a couple of other big names appearing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are a couple of big. I mean, there's also Willem Dafoe is in Ian McShane, and not small names.
They're not small names, but they're not household names.
Yeah.
Whereas Keanu Reeves definitely is a household name. Everyone knows
Keanu Reeves is an A-lister. You definitely got.
No one watching this movie and going, "Who's that actor? I can't remember his name," and checking IMDb for Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
So
I mean, John Wick was definitely a revival of his career.
Yeah.
Yeah. He brought as much to John Wick as John Wick gave him. John Wick definitely, his career was starting to go on a downward trajectory after pretty much The Matrix.
Stagnate at least, if not,
Yeah.
I mean,
and John Wick revived it.
I mean, to be fair, he never sort of dropped to the Wesley Snipes, Nicolas Cage level of films they had to take, but he was. But this is just this is a kind of thing with actors that they can be, you can be an A-lister one. It's just a sort of Hollywood thing, isn't it? For a while you're not in demand, and then suddenly you can get a role or something that brings you back. And I think John Wick did get people sort of buzzing around Keanu
I
Reeves
will
again.
be right back.
Yeah. It did, and the thing with it's with Keanu Reeves especially, he's always suited the action genre.
Well, he to be fair, it wasn't till The Matrix, and even in The Matrix, he had that line once, the whoa.
Yeah.
It took him for ages to, and even though he'd done a lot of action films because he'd done Speed and Point Break, it took him so damn long to get out of Ted Theodore Logan, because that's how he was it. Which is kind of ironic that now he just kind of got to the point where he feels comfortable doing that again, because obviously there's this Bill and Ted.
They're going to redo Bill and Ted, aren't they? Or they're doing a sequel.
It's the sequel. It's a sequel. I'm pretty sure it's been filmed actually, but
yeah. But I like Keanu Reeves in action films, I do. But he's definitely he suits action films. He's got I'll say it outright, he's got the body for action films.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean this but you got to understand, he's got the body, he got the look and whatever, but he probably he's quite a well trained actor, he's done like Shakespeare and stuff, so on stage. So
though there is one other thing that John Wick did for Keanu Reeves other than reviving his career. It's basically made the internet anoint him as the patron saint of animal welfare.
Yeah.
Yes.
He did also as well. One thing it didn't do for him is teach him how to style his hair. Sorry, but Keanu Reeves, if you ever by chance get shown this, please don't grow your hair out again.
But I think it's almost kind of become a trademark. The problem is it's kind of become a trademark now for him, isn't it?
Yeah.
The thing is that scraggy, greasy look with the beard. I shouldn't be looking at him and be thinking about casting him as a young Professor Snape. That's not what Keanu Reeves is.
God damn it, she's trying to work it in again.
Yeah. Damn it, Hissy. Well,
but
hopefully,
you know what I mean?
he's. Well, hopefully, Keanu wouldn't work with the
channel punching bag.
Yeah. Well, you get to the point with actors though where it depends how much actual hand she's got in something. Because I mean, with the whole thing with
I think we've digressed. I think we've digressed a little bit.
But so actually, the Theon Greyjoy's dad, Vigo puts out puts a hit and an actual hit on John, to the other high level assassins.
Well, and I think it's worth noting that one of the first people he goes to is Willem Dafoe's character, who is obviously an old friend of John's, and sort of someone who's maybe got the reputation as being maybe one of the few guys who could take him down, possibly. Although that's and he kind of initially agrees to it, but I think we'll find out later he's not really into taking this contract. He's got too much personal loyalty. But one of the other things, of course, that he does was that he puts the word out. If anyone's willing to break the Continental's rules, I'll double the contract if someone's willing to break the rules.
And we've got a young up and comer who is willing to break the rules, which kind of brings into another theme that John Wick has going through it. It's old school versus new school.
Yeah. And old principles versus, shall we call them, youthful indiscretions.
Yeah. Well, because it'd be like you can even think of this in real life contexts with old school kind of gangsters that kind of had their code of honor. Now, I think in real life they were always a little bit flexible on this, but certainly, there were people in the underworld who, like say the Italian Americans. There definitely were a generation who definitely kind of believed in the tenets of Cosa Nostra. Even if they were a little loose with it,
don't involve women, don't involve children, stay away from drugs, that kind of thing. They had a code. To an extent.
To an extent, I will say the history I've read that they've always been a little bit sketchy on their codes. I will say they've always been a little.
In the words
of a guideline.
In the immortal words of Captain Barbossa, they're more guidelines.
But you get the feeling in this particular universe, certainly within those around the Continental themselves, with the world building that you're going on, that there does seem to be a very strict guideline. These are rules. These are rules. Break them at your own peril.
And there will be consequences.
And and we see that where Theon incites the plot by breaking the unspoken rule without realizing it and fucking with John Wick. And then this up and comer assassin tries to do business on continental grounds.
And gets fucked for it.
Yeah.
To put it mildly.
And is declared excommunicado.
By thine own hand, you also,
you have,
also all services and privileges of the Continental have been revoked.
Bang.
Yeah.
I mean, you knew the rules. You knew what you were fucking with. I'm not usually one for people playing judge, jury, and executioner, but when it's that clear cut,
I mean, you do get the feeling.
At the end of the day,
you do get the feeling
the manager has to keep order, because if he doesn't hold them to account, all hell's going to break loose.
You do get the feeling that he does kind of, in a way that you could sort of say that he kind of does believe in the rules, does Winston, the manager, although. He, as you might see in some of the sequels, he's not above bending them a bit, at least, at the very least.
Or at the very least, finding small loopholes.
Finding some loopholes. He's not about bending the rules, stretching them.
Yeah, I will say as well with Winston, he's an iron fist in a velvet glove. He's that kind of character. He seems nice enough. He's polite. He's always polite. And and he's always very put together. But don't fuck with him.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's the upcoming. What's it? Perkins is the name of the character.
Mm-hmm.
The female assassin who's the kind of up and comer that is willing to break. And of course, you know that you have the other Willem Dafoe's character gets the opportunity to take a shot at John Wick.
Yeah.
But in a way, kind of sends him. What he does is sends him a warning shot that something's coming.
Yeah.
So that's the first time you get the feeling that okay, he's not going to take. He's not really taking this contract. You know, that's the first hint you get with it.
Yeah.
Like he's taking the contract in order to protect John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better me than someone else. Yeah.
Though the way it's shot the first time you're watching the movie, at least I got the impression that he's that he was gonna bide his time, let John tire himself out on the competition,
then collect the bounty. Yeah. Which I kind of maybe thought along those lines as well. So it's actually one because Willem Dafoe's often a bad guy, so it's easy to get into. Like, okay, there's he's playing a long game of some kind here.
Yeah.
But no, it turns out he is there to help John Wick, but it doesn't really work out well for him.
No. What I suppose happens is because they get to I don't know quite how far I'm jumping along in the plot here, but it gets to a point where John Wick really goes after this guy's private bank vault pretty much.
Yeah.
And just destroys a lot of his ill-gotten gains.
Yeah.
And it kind of, I suppose the scene kind of culminates in he has to take the contract off of John Wick. But at the same time, he's like, your son's still fucking dead. John Wick is not compromising on that point.
Yeah.
But it's like,
I can make peace with you.
It's like, your son's died. Your son is fucking dead. Accept it. Get used to it. It's how much do you and your fucking empire and the rest of it do you want to lose? Your son's dying either way. That's his position.
Yeah.
So,
and it's kind of John giving him the chance of your son fucked up. By your rules, your son is going to pay for it. Do you want to pay with him?
Yeah. Well, and actually brings in another theme in regards to John Wick, the movie, is it's a movie about grief. It is a movie about dealing with loss. Throughout the movie, John is dealing with his own loss, and Vigo is struggling with dealing with the loss of knowing that his son is dead, even as his son is still alive.
Yeah, he knows it. He knows his son's a dead man.
His son's a dead man walking, and we do see him almost begin to grieve before his son's even dead.
You can almost, to a certain point, you can almost sympathise with Vigo's motives here, because a lot of this is he is trying to save his son's life.
Yeah,
and by killing John Wick. But the problem is where Vigo, I think, really where he fucks up. Is he made the deal with John Wick, and
then tries to break it.
But he couldn't. Yeah, he could. I suppose part of him is maybe it's because he couldn't bring himself to say no. I'm still gonna try. I don't know if he's still out of a sense of trying to protect his son, or whatever it was, he then kills Willem Dafoe's character just to get with John Wick, which is like, okay, now you've been stupid enough to put the target on your back again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much. It was a very dumb move to me.
I think
to try.
there's a lot of parallels between Viggo and John Wick, because you sort of see where this man has watched his wife go through a terminal illness and lost her. And anyone who's seen anyone go through that knows you get desperate. You start to do things you wouldn't normally do in the hope of finding some way out of it.
Back in two, guys.
And we do see that that desperation personified and really extrapolated in Viggo.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. Whereas John's been there. He knows what Viggo's going through. And he knows there's nothing can be done about it. He could change his mind if he wanted to, but he's so set in his ways, he's made his decision that actually, once he makes a decision, that's it. He's an attack dog. Once you let him loose, that's it. You ain't calling him off. And he knows that, and Viggo knows that. And the thing is, it gets to the point very early on that John can't be seen to let Viggo's son go.
Yeah.
Because if he lets Joseph go, he loses all standing. You allowed this man to invade your home and steal from you, and he's still alive? And where does the respect for John Wick go then?
Well, though though all throughout this movie is are you getting back into the life, John?
No, I'm not. And then suddenly I'm in.
Yeah.
And I will say this film is it's a very good commentary on toxic masculinity.
Oh, yeah.
Because we see it time and time again that John has to do something about the fact his dog was killed. He chooses to do that. But the more he gets into that, the harder and harder it is for him not to embody that role.
Yeah.
So he does one thing that's toxic and it explodes. And it's a great commentary on toxic masculinity. And the whole culture of the Continental and the Assassin is a great culture on toxic masculinity. It's a great commentary on toxic masculinity. Which again, I think is very telling that it's a woman who broke Continental rules.
Yeah.
It's like, because all those old codes and cultures are very much bound into that virility, male dominance, male culture, male toxicity. So the fact that it was a woman that broke those rules, no man would have broken those rules because it's part of that mentality. It took a woman to break the facade of this masculine toxicity and this masculine code, because no one else would have, because no man would have broken out of it. And it's very telling that it was a woman that did that.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm done. If you're here for gender studies, go write your own essay.
Yeah. Though, I will say it's fitting, that, John and Viggo mirror each other throughout the movie, because, the climax of the movie is John and Viggo, head to head.
And I think that is the entire point. The entire point is it stops being a personal story, and it was sort of eventually it becomes a power struggle.
Yeah.
And with everything Viggo's got to lose, he puts up a damn good fight.
Yeah.
But the entire point is that no matter how many men you think you've got, how safe you think you are, John Wick can still get to you. That's the entire point.
Yeah. Though there is, another comment on masculinity, and particularly masculinity in the action movie or in the action genre, is in the dogs.
Yeah, they're all pit bull types, Staffordshire bull types.
So John's, the dog that John's wife gives him is a
very
beagle.
feminine. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a soft, floppy-eared, cute little thing.
Yeah, and then, after his fight with Vigo, where he's all torn up and he needs medical attention, he breaks into a vet to get himself stitched up, and he finds a Staffy that's slated for the needle, and he breaks it out.
Because it's a dangerous dog, yeah.
And he breaks it out and adopts it.
Yeah. I will say as well, there is this parallelism there of, as we see in the later films, this dog, no one in the world, everyone thinks it's too dangerous to be allowed to live.
Yeah.
Am I describing John or the dog?
Yeah. And I mean, in regards to in regards to the sequels, especially John Wick 3, you can tell a lot about a person on whether or not they like dogs.
Yeah. If a person doesn't like dogs, I don't trust them. If a dog doesn't like a person, I don't like the person.
Yeah.
And I'm a dog person, so I'm just very much,
yeah.
It's one of those, but there's a lot of parallels drawn between different characters, and there's a lot of tropes used to humanize John, which is really needed. Because if you take away take the dog out of the scenario and just say this kid stole his car, even then, it's not justified.
Yeah.
It's the killing of the dog, the killing of the puppy.
Yeah.
And not just a puppy, but a puppy his dead wife gave him.
Yeah.
That's
which on its surface looks like a satire of like the tragic action backstory.
But without it, John Wick is just an asshole and you're not rooting for him.
Yeah.
Especially when you find out he's killing some poor guy's son, and the son didn't. If the son hadn't shot the dog, has he really done any harm?
Yeah.
And I think there's a reason a cute dog was chosen for that one.
Yeah, or in the last words of Vigo, it was just a fucking dog. But no, it wasn't just a dog.
It wasn't just a dog, and that's the entire point.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, even if it was just a dog, that would be the point. It's a dog.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything to you.
I
think it's because it's kind of the thing. I think had it just been the car, the son would have probably gotten a good fucking kicking from John Wick. Not necessarily.
But he couldn't have justified killing him.
Yeah.
Whereas I think, the dog is the tipping point.
Yeah.
Or, to summarize the plot of, John Wick, the Russian mafia killed his dog, so he killed the Russian mafia.
Pretty much.
Pretty damn much, yeah.
And there is this throughout the whole thing, there is this, I want to talk about the use of othering and the use of, it's the Russian mafia in America. John Wick is an outsider, even amongst outsiders.
Yeah.
He tried to get out, but he's still, if he really wanted out of that life, he would have had nothing to dig up out of his garage.
As we get, we get a little further into it. It does suggest that he's got his background might not necessarily be, his background himself may be Eastern European. However, something for
He's
when we
not
do the
rushing,
sequels.
Yeah.
He's fought his way to the top, and he's fought his way to have that level of respect.
Mm.
And in that sense, he's very much it is that stereotypical kid from nowhere. It's the Peter Parker thing, isn't it? It's the poor kid who became good. And I mean Peter Parker in the comics, not Peter Parker in the movies, where he was given a magical mentor who could give him everything on a plate. Don't get me wrong, I love Tony Stark in the movies, but that's not Peter Parker.
Yeah.
No.
Though, and another point at why John Wick is such a masterpiece, while being, as opposed to Die Hard, which is a perfect movie in its own right, it doesn't quite hit masterpiece level, at least for me. We're still digging up, we're still digging into like just the first movie of John Wick
for over an hour.
And by 40 minutes we had already burned through what we could talk about in regards to Die Hard.
I think the thing with Die Hard is nothing was left to the imagination, whereas with John Wick, all the backstory is left to the imagination. You're never told where the gold coins come from. You're never told
eventually
who John Wick really is.
More gets revealed. As I said, that I mean, I suppose obviously they probably knew right from the beginning that this was going to be a franchise in a sense, because there is like I said, the world building here that goes on.
I'll disagree with you. I think so. John Wick, the first movie, John Wick, was to me it was a passion project. That only got made because the director producer knew Keanu Reeves. Then John Wick exploded because it's a masterpiece. And then they started franchise building with John Wick 2 and John Wick Parabellum.
Yeah, because definitely there's more franchise building in Parabellum.
Yeah.
And at the end of John Wick 2.
Yeah.
Because it's very much... I almost felt like... Because John Wick 2 felt almost like a lot of the backstory was shoehorned in. When I watched it, it didn't feel like I was being told this organically. Which makes sense, because if you're going to write a sequel that's also got to tell you the backstory, it's going to be like that. That's not to say I don't like John Wick 2, I do. But I think compared to John Wick the first,
you said about the gold coins, though. I mean, the director of it actually said that if about this, because I said, remember I said about the slight homage to the spaghetti western in this.
Yeah.
But there's so much backstory that we're giving you the gold coins. Where do the gold coins come from? It's a little bit of a homage to like the good, the bad, and the ugly in a sense there, which he's kind of very open about that. And when he's been interviewed, that he was like that he was very open that was a film that
and
was an influence on John Wick.
But it's also interesting that everything is paid for with one gold coin. It's more of a token of favors being exchanged, rather than an actual currency.
And I think as well, the thing about John Wick as a character, he takes elements from almost all the traditional American heroic archetypes. There's a little bit of the cowboy in there. There's a little bit of the comic book superhero. There's definitely, he's not a veteran, but there's definitely veteran vibes in there.
Yeah. And then there's a little bit of the sort of martial arts film kind of.
there's definitely the martial arts. Keanu Reeves trained for months before John Wick in martial arts.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah,
if you haven't watched the video of John Wick going through the gun, or of Keanu Reeves going through the gun range.
Yeah. Well, he was trained in judo, Japanese and Brazilian jiu-jitsu for this movie. He probably, I'm sure if you look at The Matrix, he's probably had some training in other martial arts before that. You know, so
yeah,
he was definitely, you know, and I think a lot of that as well is to do with the fact that because we kind of know a lot of, should we say, traditional martial arts or whatever that we see have got their limits, so we say in real life situations.
Yeah.
That you know, but we know how effective the jiu-jitsu actually, because of rise of things like the Ultimate Fighting Championships. We know how effective jiu-jitsu is. So it's
jiu-jitsu is a very effective fighting style.
To incorporate. So it's like now this is, you've got to incorporate that into like martial arts fighting things now, because whereas like a few years ago it would have just been like karate or kung fu kind of.
Yeah, and like there's a, like it's not like the stylized gun kata that was, you know, invented for equilibrium, but there is a lot of like using the gun as a weapon other than, you know, as something other than point and shoot. It's using the gun as a normal weapon.
Yeah, that's a very, I feel like that's something that I've seen in a lot again in Jackie Chan.
I mean, the one thing you've got to do with these movies is absolutely, you got to just, that obviously it's a big thing. You've got to suspend your disbelief, and you know that is the especially the fact that how many shots he seems to get out of a gun before it needs reloading a lot of the time, which I know is an action movie trope in itself.
So
Hollywood,
I will say John Wick is a lot better at limiting ammo than most action movies.
Yeah, I will say
that's an action movie trope in itself.
Yeah, no, that's a niggle for me. And it's only in the final scene with Vigo that he actually does not. He goes over what that gun he uses is actually capable of.
Yeah, because like in most of the
reload quite regularly.
In most of the action scenes, he's like taking guns off his enemies and then using them and reloading like nearly constantly.
It is amazing of this how often though. I would just say 90% of the shots he takes in there are is headshots in one way or another, whether it is a lot of the time at point blank range, because he's incorporating that into the hand to hands. Like it's punches him a couple of times, gun to the head, boom. You know that's
and on and on and on. Yeah, and it's the thing with it as well. He's yes, he reloads constantly. I have niggles about the way characters use guns in movies. It irritates me. Okay. He's very good for a character in a movie, but the sheer number of the clips that they actually put that he throws away, those things are not cheap. Okay. I appreciate you don't have bottomless pockets, but shove one or two in your pockets.
Yeah.
You can refill them. That's what they're for.
It's it's a general Hollywood trope, but I also, I mean, if you remember going back a few years ago, I think Mythbusters did a good episode on Hollywood gun myths, like the fact that you can hide behind the door of a car, it's an absolute, you're shielded from a gun.
You can.
And then they took some test firing of that, saying, "No, you're screwed."
There was an episode of Top Gear where they went to the Middle East. and they were worried about being shot. They were driving through Iraq. You know, it's a fair cop. Although they were driving through the Kurd region of Iraq, so not really a fair cop.
You idiots! You went from a safe area into a war zone.
And they filled one of the cars. They got the door and filled it with sand, thinking it'd work like a sandbag. But that's not how car doors work. And rather than stopping the bullet, it split it into 3, and the bullet kept going. So no, you can't hide behind a car door from a bullet. And that was just a handgun.
Well, I also remember if you ever watched that series Long Way Round with Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman, you just put them on when they rode the motorcycles around the world. And they actually had to do some, because they said, look, some of the regions you're traveling into could be potentially dangerous. So they got some sort of extreme training for that. And because someone showed to them, says like, you get to a certain point in, say, like Russia and say some of the former Soviet republics you're traveling through, someone cooks up a Kalashnikov and says pretty much every household has one of these.
Yeah.
So you only got to run into one person who's apparently they did have a close call with someone points a gun at them, and thankfully the police sort of turned up. But they apparently, by all accounts, they did have quite a lucky escape on that trip in Kazakhstan, I think, which is because they were promised a police escort all the way through Kazakhstan. They dismissed them for a couple of days. They said, look, because we don't want to ride with cops with us. And then they had that little incident and were like, no, we're going to take the police escort for the rest of the country now.
But yeah, just don't hide behind a car door from bullets. It's not going to save you.
Yeah.
Okay. My character, Clarkson can be, yes.
He's known for it. Yeah, he's known for having a bit of a mouth on him, we'll say.
He's made some. He's definitely been very insightful at times and has pushed the limit. I said that Hammond is more. He's like Hammond reminds me more of the little kid that stood behind the bully at school, laughing at their
holding his coat, while the bully gives someone else a kicking. Yeah.
James May's the only one of them I can actually tolerate myself, but
yeah. I mean, James May's all right. He makes a point of going to other countries and doing documentaries and things. He's not.
Yeah.
To be fair, I don't think Clarkson's half as bad in real life as he appears on screen. I think he does play it up.
Obviously, though, there's a reason he was sacked from the BBC.
Because he punched the producer because he was hungry.
Which made me laugh. Anyway, I know we're getting off topic here, but I'll just say this. All those people who complain when he got sacked by the BBC that this is political correctness gone mad, you go into work and punch a work colleague, okay, and see if you don't get sacked because of it.
Exactly.
He deserves
and use the excuse that you're hungry and tired.
Yeah.
It's not political correctness gone mad. That's
workplace
work colleague.
law.
Now, what I would say is, political correctness gone mad. And kind of the other way is calling a TERF brave and giving her an award for it. BBC.
You got in before me.
Let's go. Yeah. But let's go further than that. I never thought, like in all the things in 2020, that there would be a comparison with Enoch Powell and it would be favourable. Well, they were trying to do it favourable.
Where they were trying to make it favourable.
I'm like, what the actual fuck?
Listen, if you come from a family or a household, or you are one of those people to whom the words Enoch Powell and Rivers of Blood are not a swear word that sends shivers down your spine and make you incandescently angry.
Microraptor.
You
I know.
might be a Yank.
Sorry, I just saw Microraptor's comment. I'll just say, I know this is a comedian Noodle's not a big fan of, but I really like this guy. There's a comedian called Stuart Lee who does a good routine on the political correctness gone mad. If you want to check that out, it's quite funny.
Yeah, I just think that there's a difference between political correctness and being a decent human being.
Yeah. Well, Stuart Lee's joke was that there's a whole generation that have got political correctness and health and safety legislation mixed up.
Yeah, definitely.
You can't, it's I was told the other day that when I can't have a cup of tea in the hairdressers by the hairdresser stall because of health and safety. It's political correctness gone mad.
No, it's so you don't get shampoo on your teeth.
He's go Stuart. He said it's Red Robbo. He's saying don't have cup of tea in front of cup of tea. What if a Pakistani sees it? It's just it's that level of It's
got nothing to do with that and everything to do with you don't want to choke on hair.
They're telling us we can't stick our arm in a threshing machine anymore. They're trying to cancel Christmas next.
Though it's fun.
Anyway, we've gone way off topic
because
we've gone so far off of John Wick.
Because John Wick takes its swings at the action genre and at like the masculine tropes of the action genre, the toxic masculinity tropes of the action genre. But no one's complaining that John Wick is too politically correct.
No, because it does it in such a way that you can take it both ways because it's a satire.
It's often the best type of subversion in a way, isn't it? That you don't always necessarily know it's there unless you really scratch beneath the surface.
Yeah. And of course,
a lot of people aren't going to watch it and see it on that sort of level.
Yeah. Do either of you have any last things you want to bring up?
With John Wick, that franchise owes a lot to the. I think it owes a lot to things like Bruce Lee, to is it Chuck Norris?
Chuck Norris, Clint Eastwood, even
Clint Eastwood. The film is a very good amalgamation of the best tropes of about 80 to 90 years of American cinema and international cinema as well. And I think what makes it is the fact that it doesn't limit itself to American tropes and it likes to subvert them. Your hero is a foreigner. Your hero is not a hero. It's very much, I feel like it's of its time as well. We have in the last sort of 15 years switched from really having those clean cut, frankly boring heroes to more interesting anti-heroes, and that followed on from the comic books in the 90s doing that. Everything from sort of grimdark through to more sort of things like the Punisher, etc. But it's I like this kind of action film because it's not just bang bang punch punch, wow, you're dead. There is a bit of plot there, and I like that we're being drip fed the plot. Because it can be very boring when it's so one-dimensional. And in that sense, I think this is it's a thinking man's action movie.
Yeah. I mean, I do hope, because I know we've had 3 movies already. I've enjoyed all of them. we've got this the fourth one scheduled to be released, and there's a fifth. We know there's a fifth one planned. I am, obviously, I hope they kind of continue with the way they've been going with these films. Because we've seen so many like good franchises that have been killed with some bad, we talked about Die Hard a couple of weeks ago. But the fourth film to me was a franchise killer, and the fifth one it was even worse.
So I hope they care about it.
The first two Terminator films were amazing films. After that, they just slowly went down. I will say the last one they did, Dark Fate, tried to repair a bit of damage. It was an okay film, but not like it didn't. They tried to repair a bit of the damage, but you had something which was a brilliant franchise that was just killed by some awful, and especially Terminator Genesis. That is like just one of the most awful kind of action films ever made.
Yeah. I will say, what I would say then on that is, I hope that the director, the producers, and everyone else are brave enough to stop once they've told the story.
Yeah.
Because they could very easily get caught up in the, oh, this makes money, let's drive it into the ground.
Yeah.
This is a punching bag. And I really hope they don't. I hope they stop when they've told the story and just be done with it.
Yeah, I hope so too. This is often the issue with Hollywood. Let's do more because this makes money. Because it is money, and sometimes that it's just. I can name this from everything from films to TV programs.
A lot of times Hollywood can be too much business, not enough art.
Yeah, not even just Hollywood though. I mean, like even like the BBC can do it.
Sometimes people they get onto a winner and they don't know when to let it go, and they drive it into the ground, and it goes on and on and on.
Well,
and I'm waiting for the banner to come up.
The great example that I would think of is
don't know when to stop.
Yeah.
The great example I would say as well though is the BBC sitcom Only Fools and Horses. Those last 3 episodes did not need to happen.
No, they killed it.
Stopped it there at 1996 when they finally became millionaires. That's when they should have stopped it and don't go back. And then they did those 3 more specials, and it killed it.
Yeah, I mean, the first special wasn't too bad insofar as it had a plot. But then it just, the whole point of Only Fools and Horses was they always had hope. And they were supposed to get it in the end, and they just didn't, and it kind of ruined it.
Yeah, and so my final words are, John Wick is definitely it is a masterpiece. Like even without the qualifier of the action genre, it is downright a masterpiece. Because you can very much enjoy it just on the surface level, but then when you start scratching into it, there's more layers down there, and each time you go back and rewatch it and explore these deeper layers, you always come back with more to talk about and more to explore.
I will echo the sentiment, that sentiment, because the first time I watched it, I enjoyed it. Well, I thought good action film. That was it.
Yeah,
great action. I enjoyed it. It's more the going back the second and third times of watching these through that I'm like, okay, I'm getting more out of this now.
Yeah,
that's that's a mark of a very. I mean, first of all, it's a mark of a good movie. If you are willing to watch it again, is always a good sign that you want to watch it again. But if you watch it again and again and your enjoyment of it goes up each time, and you're getting something else from it, is a very good sign. And I will hold my hands up. I watched all 3 John Wick films earlier this week in preparation for this stream.
Yeah. And I will say as well, I think as we see more of the franchise, it's going to be worth going back and watching the earlier films. Because I do think the writing is intelligent enough that things we may not have yet seen are going to illuminate previous films, whether deliberately or whether it's something that was always planned.
Well, the thing is, as you said, the first John Wick film was kind of a low-key affair in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
That just got this. Now, it was a low-key thing, and because I remember going to the cinema, and what they do with the cinemas, they have the trailers for upcoming films.
Yeah.
And they're, it's like John Wick 2, and I'm like, I didn't even know there was a film called John Wick.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit late to the game, shall we say, with John Wick. So I didn't even know this was. I didn't even know there was. Well, we were doing John Wick 2. I didn't even know there was a John Wick. And then and then I did get a chance to watch it. And I'm like, this is a good film.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think the only people who knew about John Wick 1 were Keanu Reeves fans and diehard action fans.
Yeah. The first I saw of John Wick, to be fair, it was reasonably close to after it, finished its theater run. But it's because I had a free action or a free rental coupon from Redbox.
Well, but to tell you how little I this film came out in 2014, the original, didn't it?
Yeah.
I used to go to the cinema because I was with my ex at the time. We were regular cinema goers, so we knew. I've not been so much recently, but we were regular cinema goers. She liked the cinema. We were very regular, but obviously things going on at the moment, nobody's going to the cinema. But so we pretty much knew what films were coming out.
Yeah.
So as you watch all the trailers, didn't see a goddamn trailer for the first John Wick film ever.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was a passion project.
It was under the radar. It was not heavily pushed at all.
Yeah, it was a passion project from a first-time director.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with it being a first-time director, they're not going to put a lot of money into advertising anyway, because what if it's a bust?
Yeah.
And I think what happened is Keanu Reeves fans looked at it and thought, oh, okay, let's have a look. And then it spread from there. So I think what happened is people came for Keanu Reeves and stayed for John Wick.
Yeah.
That's how this franchise has grown. And I think that the director knew that. And he knew that was how it was going to go.
Yeah.
Because I think very few other actors, I think, could have played John Wick and this franchise be as popular as it is.
I do get the feeling that the character was kind of created in a way to play to Keanu Reeves' strengths, I think.
Yeah, I think originally they wanted to cast an older actor. They wanted someone sort of who seemed to be older. And then someone said, no, let's just get someone who's got a really interesting film back catalogue, and so we can say that he's had time in his life to do interesting things like that.
Well, and then once again, the director, and I think if I remember right, the first John Wick was written by the director.
Yeah.
And he's like, I know, and I can't remember
Chad Stahelski.
Yeah,
the director.
I can't remember.
Chad. I'm going to say Stahelski.
But he was, he was friends with Keanu Reeves from being one of his stunt doubles for The Matrix.
He was because he's well known probably because originally he was one of the things he was early on was a stunt double for Brandon Lee after the during the filming The Crow. He was used as the Crow to finish one or two of the scenes after because Brandon Lee died on the set, didn't he? If you remember the film The Crow,
which I actually haven't seen.
Oh, Ring, you have got to watch The Crow. Do not watch the sequels. The sequels are fucking awful, but The Crow is a great film.
So, next week, John Wick's, John Wick 2 and John Wick Parabellum.
Yes. Sorry. That gives me an excuse to watch all three films again.
And the fact that you're excited about that says it all.
Yeah. And you know what? Let's just make the rest of the because we've already kind of started with a theme month. Let's make the rest of this month just like action movie month.
Okay, so we've got John Wick 1. So we're doing John Wick 2 and 3 next week.
Yep.
We're going to put them both together or do them separately?
I think we can probably do both together because there's not as much to dig into thematically with.
Fair. And then.
Sorry, I missed that because my internet broke for a second. What Ring said.
Yeah. There's not as much thematically to dig into for John Wick's 2 and 3 because it's very much mostly franchise building.
I think we could probably get through 2 and 3 in one stream. We'll just have to maybe we'll have a little. I might throw a suggestion or two your way or we could have a little short list of action films maybe or we could do an internet poll, whatever. But I definitely would. I definitely have got some ideas on that. But
yeah. And well, we've got 2 more weeks after next week in January.
I feel like if not next week, the week after, we're going to need something light-hearted. So can we do Shanghai Noon?
Well,
because I haven't watched that in years, and I want an excuse.
We don't do Shanghai Noon.
See, I've been wanting to do Pirates of the Caribbean for a while, just so I could drag out my cringy Christian analogy take.
Yeah. Okay, so John Wick the finale next week.
Yep.
Pirates the week after. Are we going to do the whole Pirate franchise in one go, or are we going to do separate films?
I
think you can possibly do the franchise in one go.
Does that mean I'm going to have to watch 4 and 5?
Yes.
I've got to be honest. See, I like the fourth one.
The fourth one's the mermaid, isn't it?
Yeah, I do like the fourth one a lot. I'd say if I was to go in order, my favourites to be the first one, then the fourth one would be my second favourite, then the 2 and 3, the fifth one they did, I think was bad. That was a franchise killer to me. The fifth one they did.
And welcome PJ.
Oh,
fashionably late as usual.
Yeah, we're actually the point of wrapping up.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Next week we finish John Wick.
Yeah.
Week after that, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go east and finish it up with Ip Man.
Ooh.
Okay.
I don't mind Ip Man, but maybe I could suggest could I throw a caveat in there that if Ip Man you do a poll again, we can put some famous martial arts films up there.
I would love to sit and chat Game of Death.
Actually, no. I'll tell you what. Let's do Ip Man, and then we can save because I think something like a Bruce Lee thing has got to be saved for its own.
Yeah.
own
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bruce Lee is probably going to be his own month, or
yeah,
know,
you could do
I
a
will
Bruce Lee
say,
month at some point.
Anyone who is going to be about next week watching us discuss John Wick 2 and 3, do try and find some clips of Game of Death if you can.
Oh yeah, John Wick
Just as a
3
spoiler, John Wick
especially.
3 is very much an homage to Game of Death.
Yeah.
The cinematography, the fight scenes, the action scenes, even the plot to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So that's your teaser for next week.
Yep. Any shilling you guys want to do?
Okay, I'll go first then. Obviously, myself and Noodle will be back doing our stream next Sunday. We're hoping to get Hopswatch on for next one as well. So we're gonna have a guest. Because I think he's been wanting to do one with us, and he likes Asterix and the Magic Carpet. So I'm hoping Hops will come on and be a guest. I've got a couple of potential things that may be out this week. I don't know. I think I don't have a date, but I've got a feeling. I'm hoping it'll be this Friday. I hope that I'm going to have Tim O'Neill, who runs the site History for Atheists, on. But I still do need to actually get the time and date, sorted. But that's something I'm working on. And by myself and Ethan, I hope maybe it'll be this week, maybe it'll be another week. I don't know. Ethan, aka your friendly neighbourhood atheist, he and I we're gonna perhaps do something along similar lines to a Media Musings here. Basically, I'm gonna get him on. We're gonna geek out about Cobra Kai,
which I actually haven't. I've seen bits of, but I haven't actually seen it.
Have you seen the Karate Kid films?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Because I will say it helps if you've seen the Karate Kid films. If you watch, you'll get more out of Cobra Kai if you can watch Cobra Kai if you've not seen the films and get in, and it can be entertaining. But it's probably a little helpful if you know the karate. But I think that's a brilliant TV show right now. So I'm hoping to get Ethan on and we'll geek out about that.
And Noodle?
At the moment, not much. I have a Twitch. That's something. I am planning on doing a series where I play through Death Stranding. I started the first one, but it didn't save, so I can't decide whether to go into chapter 2 or to bring it all over to YouTube and do it here. I haven't decided yet. I'll keep that looked at. I'm also looking to try and put together a kind of round table salon-esque piece with Ring and a couple of others where we discuss current events. So keep an eye on that. And as usual, I have Twitter. I have 2 Twitters. My main is Danger Hissy. I'm also Discourse Noodle. Don't follow Discourse Noodle if you don't like not safe for work stuff. Not that Danger Hissy is much less not safe for work, but yeah. I write fan fiction. I also have a Redbubble now where I'm making designs because I'm getting into doing art. So I'll have a look there. I said I don't have a lot, but then suddenly I do. So I've been doing quite a lot. Things in the pipeline, things going on. Keep an eye on Twitter. That's where you're going to see all the updates from me as it goes along, I think.
Yep. And so there's currently a Twitter poll up as to whether or not I'm going to do a edited video breaking down the attack on the Capitol that was last Wednesday. Currently, it's pretty overwhelmingly yes, but you still have 15 hours to vote. Also,
and go and vote yes, because Ring, you need to do this.
Yeah, we do need to see it from. We do need to see analyses from people with different specialties.
Well,
Or-
I got to be honest. See, I've learned something about you this week, Ring, because I knew you'd been in the military. I didn't know you'd been in intelligence analysis. That's something I learned this week when you come on and talk to. So I think your take would be very good on that. I think.
So I've got, that's probably going to be coming out sometime this upcoming week.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking of recording on Monday and then releasing Thursday so I can attend the premiere. Then, of course, provided everyone has spoons, because the last couple of weeks have been rough, secular D&D on Saturday, and of course, Media Musings again.
Yay!
Yep. I will say on the secular D&D, can I give a teaser for what's coming up in the future, Ray?
Oh, yeah.
We are.
Go ahead.
This is on my Boxing Day stream. Ring and Sam got talking about D&D, and I'm not really the D&D kind of guy, but I kind of casually threw this remark out there as a joke, saying, how about a good idea for a D&D game would be a bunch of the party has to invade Dinosaur Adventureland to find Kent Hovind's tax returns. And although it got an initial laugh, Ring and Sam saw the possibilities here.
Yep.
So keep your eyes peeled down the road. It probably won't be for a couple of months or so, but keep your eyes peeled for that. That is in the pipeline.
And we do have something of a minor celebrity guest who has appeared in my other games before.
And I'm happy to announce as well. It's just I might as well announce it here. I'm very happy to announce this. I have been blocked by Kent Hovind on Twitter.
Achievement unlocked. Good going, Jeff.
We got to get we need to talk to Dave, because apparently Dave has been blocked by past lock. So we need to find out how he did it, because that's both a goal for myself and Ring.
Yeah.
I think I've already been blocked by him. I can't see any of the tweets you retweet.
And also, I'm currently 37 subscribers away from the Embarrassing Story stream.
You need more subscribers. That's going to be a fun stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say this absolutely. Please, anyone who watches this, please, if you're not subbed to this man. Share. Just get him up there. This guy is so criminally undersubbed, as it is. We want him to break 200.
Yeah. Also, sub to Noodle at the channel Hissy's Hideaway.
I'm currently in the process of rebranding, so just click my name and follow there.
Yeah, their sub count is exactly 100 less than mine.
Ooh.
So this is the thing here now. This is here it's on. We got to get Ring to 200, and we got to get Noodle to 100. Those are the short-term goals right now.
Yeah.
Short-term goals.
I probably want to try and get myself to 400 at some point within the next couple of months, but.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, let's move to taglines.
May all of your stains be large ones. I told you I had a rude tagline, didn't I, Noodle?
A little warning would have been nice, Jeff.
Yeah.
But as always, from me, take care, be good, and if you can't be good, be careful.
Yep. And remember, indoctrination is a hell of a selfie stick, so don't choke on it.